This video continues chapter 1 in government and nonprofit accounting. So the other type of financial statements we have are fund financial statements, which are individual funds that the government works on. The things that we're looking for when we look at these financial statements are, again, fiscal accountability. So, were we following regulations? Were we being efficient, good stewards of money? We're looking at short-term flow of current financial resources, things that happened just that year, just for that fund. Sometimes funds are long-term funds, and sometimes they are special types of funds or special project funds for a short-term project. These funds use a modified accrual basis of accounting. When we start getting into the examples and the journal entries, then we're going to start seeing this modified accrual basis of accounting. So where we have revenues and expenditures and how governments record journal entries for those items. It is significantly a different process than what you do in a business, and so it does take some getting used to that modified accrual basis of accounting. Cities and states prepare, and even public universities, public colleges, public hospitals, a CAFR, or a Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. Most places do so. They're not legally required to prepare one, but many do. These are prepared in conformity with GASB's standards. The different sections. So we have an introductory section, a financial section, and a statistical section. So we're going to talk about these different sections, and then I'm going to show you an example of a CAFR. There are also examples in your textbook in the reading. The introduction is going to have the title page, contents page, a letter, and then anything else that the management wants to share with you. That letter is generally information from the CFO about the financial statements that are included within the report. The financial section is going to have the auditor's report and what the results were of that auditor's report. The MD&A, that management's discussion and analysis that we talked about, the basic financial statements and related notes and supplementary information, and then other information they choose to share with citizens or share publicly. The statistical section usually has information about the city as a whole. So how many people live in the city, what are the main jobs for people who live in the city, average cost of homes, ages, gender, race of people who live within the city, what kinds of information that they do. So we're going to look at CAFR right now. So here I have the city of Iowa City. I will use the city of Iowa City often in examples. I worked there for 2 years, and so I'm fairly comfortable with where all of their information is about their financial accounting and their processes and their resources. And so you can see different information here that they provide a 3-year financial plan and their budget. They have their budget at a glance, the adopted budget. They will also, they'll at some time post the 2025 perspective budget for citizens to review it before it gets voted on. This gives them the opportunity to respond to their council members and say whether they agree or not. They also have a capital improvement plan that they have a 5-year timeline for. This allows them to plan for large capital expenses. So this is their CAFR, their annual financial report. And we can open it up here, and then we can see that their fiscal year ended June 30th. We have the introductory section, which tells us that they have the table of contents, the letter of remittal that we just discussed. They have won certificates of achievement for excellence in financial reporting from the American Governmental Accounting Association, and who the city's officials are in the org chart. Then you can see they have their financial section, table of contents, and then they'll have the statistical section. So you can see that much like an annual report, this is 163 pages long, and there is a great amount of information in that. So we can download it and view it as a PDF, but we can just look at some different information here. Here we have their audit. So report on the audit of the financial statements from the auditing firm. And then we get into the financial statements and different information about the financial statements. They have the required financial statements, and then they have broken out some information into graphs. We're going to have fund accounts, the general accounts, and then at the end we would have the statistical section. Okay. You're going to be looking at a lot of CAFRs throughout this class. Okay. Federal government financial reporting. So this happens at 2 different levels. First, we have the U.S. government-wide financial reporting, which is prepared by the U.S. Treasury. And then we have agency and departments that have to prepare their own statements. And those requirements are established in the Office of Management and Budgets, OMB Circular A36. As I said, we're going to have an entire chapter focused on the federal government financial reporting regulations. Of course, there's never been an audit opinion on the federal government's consolidated financial statements. In fact, there are a lot of financial management and data deficiencies, which cause a disclaimer of opinion. We'll talk about this more when we talk about the complications in financial reporting. The things that federal government financial report call are a citizen's guide, which is in plain language. So a description of what is included in the report in a way that the average citizen could understand it. The MD&A, or management discussion analysis, performance information, financial statements, and then any supplementary information. This information is all publicly available. And when we have the chapter on federal government, we'll look much deeper into this. Chapter 1 is really just an introduction. Federal agencies and departments, so where we look at like the Department of Transportation, the Department of Education, and how we break out different federal agencies. They must prepare a performance and accountability report that includes an annual performance report. So every single federal agency and department generates their own report, and then they all get consolidated into the main federal government's overall financial report. Okay. The performance and accountability report includes an MD&A. It includes a performance section, which says, were they able to meet their goals? Were they efficient stewards of their resources? It includes copies of their financial statements. So you can see here the different names of financial statements that we're going to be looking at, where we're not going to be looking at an income statement because income is not the purpose of government and nonprofit. Instead, we have statement of changes in net position, statement of resources, statement of net cost. And we're going to look at all of these financial statements starting in chapters 2 and 3. Okay. And then nonprofit organization financial reporting. This provides information to donors, members, creditors. Some people who are looking to donate money might be interested in seeing how nonprofit organizations use that money, what they're using that money for, what services they provide. So the things that we include, if we're non-governmental in nature, we follow FASB accounting and financial reportings. And if the nonprofit is governmental in nature, they have to follow GASB accounting and financial reporting standards. But we would include a statement of financial position, a statement of activities, and a statement of cash flows. They are allowed to choose if they want to use the indirect or the direct method. Unlike business entities, they do not have to show reconciliation, regardless of which statement of cash flows method they use. Nonprofits are also, they show information between functional expenses and natural expenses. They have to include this as part of their statement of activities. So what were the expenses just because of their function and the different services that they have? And then what are the expenses just because they're running an entity? So things like salaries and different things like that. We would have a separate financial statement showing this information. They also have to show actually that's on the next slide. So they also have to talk about donor imposed restrictions. So when people donate money to an entity, they can say that it's for general purpose without restrictions, or they can say that it has a donor restriction, such as I decided to donate money and it's only to go to this capital project. So then they have to record that information. That donation is a legally binding document that says that they cannot spend any money that I give them for any purpose other than the capital budgeting project for which I have stated. So entities have to report how much of their donor has restrictions and how much of their donor funding doesn't have restrictions. They do not have to disclose what those restrictions are, but they do have to have legal documentation showing what those restrictions are and that they're following them. Would they be audited? Okay, and then any other accountability reporting. So we have popular reports, which are condensed unaudited reports. These are for the general public. They're usually 4 to 6 pages and just contain a lot of highlights. Service efforts and accomplishments, or an SEA report, where again these are short reports that just show high level of what we really want people to see about what we accomplished over the last year. We want to say, hey, we provided a lot of service as a nonprofit, and these are the things that we're really proud of. Okay? That is chapter 1.